Hey backpackers, this is Juan from Juan Backpacks. I'm here today to show you my loadout that I used on the Black Forest Trail. There's maybe one or two little items switching out on this one, but I'm going to be doing the Oil Creek Girard Trail in Oil Creek. I think that's about a 40-mile trail, something like that. I have to look it up, but it's going to be like 3 days, 2 nights on that trail. And so this is my loadout. We're expecting temperatures down in the 20s, maybe 20 degrees. Possibly rain, possibly sleet, possibly snow, just like 2 weeks ago on the Black Forest Trail. So I'm a little bit prepared for everything. This loadout is 13.4 ounces. The only thing that I didn't include in that weight is 2 pairs of socks. So I'm probably around 13.5 ounces. Not too bad, and this will get me down into 20 degrees comfortably, keep me dry. Rain, snow, and sleet, because this loadout's already been tested in those conditions. So let's take a look and see what I've got in the pack. We're going to start with the outside first. This is one thing that I'm going to add. It's included in the weight I gave you, a 13.4. Just another sit pad. I always find it's nice when it's a little bit wetter outside, maybe snowing. You just got another place where you don't have to lay your gear down in the snow or in the wetness. And so I'm going to use this. I've also got a pad in my backpack as well. This is a Outdoor Vitals Shadow Light 60-liter pack, and it's got a little sit pad here that I can use. The Outdoor Vitals 60-liter pack. I usually hike with a 40-liter pack, except for the winter when I've got like more bulky gear and maybe a little bit more gear than usual. And so I switched to the 60-liter pack, and you'll see that as I go through everything. I'm going to start on the outside. Let's start with the side pockets. The only thing I really put in my side pockets would be my iPhone, and then in one of them, I always hook my keys in there. The Shadow Light actually has a little hook inside to hook your keys in there so you don't lose them. But I always, when I'm backpacking in winter, late season, when the days are shorter, I always put my headlamp in my side pocket. Usually it's in my electronics bag. I do that because many times we'll push the hiking day into close to evening, or even right up butted against dark or into dark a little bit. And so I always want that headlamp where I don't have to dig for it. When I'm ready to set up my tent and it starts getting a little bit dim out, starts getting dark, I've got my headlamp exactly where I need it. So just a little tip there for you as I'm doing my loadout. The other piece of gear I've got on the outside of the pack, and one of the side pockets, is going to be this Tyvek ground sheet. I'm probably going to swap the Tyvek ground sheet out, honestly, for something a little bit lighter on this trip. I've got to cut a piece of lighter plastic that I have, but I'm going to try to do that before the trip. The other thing I have on the outside is my water filtration. It's bee-free. I like this one a lot. I also tried the platypus. I've got a video about the platypus quick draw. I'm moving away from it. Didn't like it as much, so I'm going back to this, and this will be my water filter for this trip. No fuss, no muss, quick and easy. On the outside, on the other side of the pockets, I've got my water bottle here. I always carry a liter water bottle, and then before the trip, I'll get a second bottle in here. That will be a wide mouth bottle that I can mix my breakfast drink in and so forth. And so I've always carried 2 bottles with me, one to drink out of, one to store water, and that's usually good enough. If I need to store more water, I can always use that liter bag for the bee-free, and I'm good to go, especially in Pennsylvania. Lots of water, a lot of the trails, not very many super long water carries here. So the water bottle. The other thing I have in my pack is, on the outside pocket, is my poop kit. And so you can see here, it's pretty simple. There's a bidet in there. There is some Dr. Bronner soap for cleanup afterwards, and my shovel, and that's pretty much it, the whole poop kit. Nothing else on the outside of the pockets here, so let's go to these back pockets on the Shadow Light. It's got these twin mesh pockets, really like them a lot. On one side, I've got my shelter, and I've used this shelter in the winter during the snow and so forth here in Pennsylvania, and it does pretty good for me. It's the Gossamer Gear 1. It's a trekking pole shelter. The tent itself, the shelter itself weighs 17 ounces, and then obviously you got the stakes and things like that added in there. All in, I've weighed this before, it's like 21 ounces. Again, my total pack weight here without food and water is 13.4 ounces, basically 13.5 pounds, or 13.4 pounds, basically 13.5 pounds. That's not bad for a 20-degree loadout. So this is going to be my shelter. It served me very well. Rain, snow, and sleet, I've had it in all 3 conditions. As long as you set it up in the right place, you're very careful, you secure things in the right way, it does really well. The only thing I found in the snow, not great at snow loads on the tent, but you just have to kind of stay on top of it. It is what it is. I would, if I did a lot more winter camping, I'd probably invest in a winter shelter, but I get by with what I have. This is a chair I'm taking with me. It's a 1 pound chair from, it's the 1 pound chair from REI. Just picked this up recently. My loadouts for only a few days are so light because I'm not carrying a ton of food and so forth. So I got like an extra pound to spare for a chair. Great in the eastern woods of Pennsylvania, especially because unlike out when I go out to the Sierra, there's always a rock. There's always a really comfortable sit place as long as you have like a pad or something to throw down. In Pennsylvania, it's not quite as good. It's either a soggy, mossy log, or it might be a low rock, or you're sitting on the ground in the leaves. Not into that, so I'm going to take my chair because, again, it's only a few days out there, and so we'll be good with the chair. So now we've got everything on the outside. Yeah, that's everything on the outside of the pack. Let's dive inside this Shadow Light. It's got a roll top on it, which I love roll tops. That's why I use the Gossamer Gear G420 as my smaller 40-liter pack for most of the conditions. So let's take a look. Right on top, I like doing these loadouts right out of my pack because you get an idea of my progression and kind of like my thought process and storing gear like in an organized fashion. I love just loading things in, but I load them in a certain order. On top, rain jacket, always on top of everything, especially in the fall and spring. This is an Outdoor Vitals two-shirt rain jacket. It weighs around 7 ounces or just under 7 ounces for this medium. And so it's an awesome, awesome jacket. I've got a video on my website about that. Here I've got my electronics kit. It's in a waterproof sack. This is from, I think, let's see, Hilltop Packs. And so let's dive inside my kind of ditty bag / electronics bag. I've got, number one, my recharging kit here. That's a Nikkor 10,000 MB10,000 battery. It's got a special holder on here that I did a video about that I got from Etsy to organize all my recharging adapters and so forth. So it's all in one, recharge everything from there. I've also got a little bag in here of some little odds and ends things. Got some bug spray. I still like it in the winter because of ticks and so forth in Pennsylvania. I like to throw a little bit of that on my boots once in a while. Got a toothbrush in there with some toothpaste. I've got some hand sanitizer in there, a little dropper, repackaged hand sanitizer. I've got a small thing of lip balm in there, or I'm sorry, this is Go Stick chafing. It's not lip balm, it's chafing, lubricant. I don't really need it, honestly. I've never used it. Probably will eventually take it out of my kit. I got some toothpaste in there. I've got some sunscreen. You never know. I mean, in summer or winter, the sun can get intense. And so I like to put a little bit of sunscreen on my ears. And then here's the lip balm right there. There's the lip balm right there. So that's all that's in this bag. I keep it in this bag, in my ditty bag, so I can put it in my bear bag because they're smellables. These are all smellables in here. So I can basically take it out of my ditty bag, throw it in my food bag, and hang my food bag at the end of the night. The other thing I have in my ditty bag is my first aid kit. Super light. It's only like maybe a couple ounces. It's just got some basics. I'm not going to get into detail here. Maybe if you want to, I'll do a video on it. Just post up below in the comments if you want to see a video on any of this stuff. Like anything that I go over here, honestly, if you want to see a video on it, just post in the comments below because I'm not getting into detail at all in this gear loadout. So now let's go ahead, next thing down in the list here. Real important to keep this near the top in the wintertime, in fall, spring, late fall, early spring, I think, is a bag like this. And what I do is I got a Ziploc bag to keep this stuff dry so I don't have to put it in my pack liner. And I've got some things I might need really quick. For example, fingerless fleece gloves. Love those. Any time of the year, I'm good with fingerless gloves. And if I do need fingered gloves, I got another convertible set where I can literally turn them into mittens or fingerless gloves. Love those for hiking in the winter time, in the true winter when it's going to get super cold for a long time, for long periods of time. Got a fleece neck gaiter here. I've got a really lightweight fleece hat that really does well when you're hiking, wicks away moisture and so forth. And I've got my ankle brace just in case my ankle goes south, which it has from time to time. So I always take that with me. So that's what I put inside here. And then obviously kind of right below it's usually right below my rain jacket, so I can reach it really quickly and grab any of those items that I need if I get cold or need a hat or something like that. Then digging down further, underneath that will be my food bag. Obviously there's no food in here yet, but my food bag is pretty much standard. It's a Hilltop Packs food bag. And inside here I keep all my food. We're only going for like 2.5 days basically. So I'm not going to need much food. And inside my food bag, there's a spoon holder in here. So I've got my Tokes polished bowl spoon in here. I've got a rock sack to hang the bear bag with a carabiner, and the line is inside here as well. And then this is my cook kit. I basically have a koozie because I don't like to dirty up my pot. So I literally will take freezer bags and I'm going to put it inside my pot after I dump the water in a freezer bag, put the freezer bag back inside the pot so that I can kind of keep it warm, put it in the cozy, and then my food can kind of warm up, stay warm, and hydrate at the same time. So it's kind of saving some space and weight by doing that. I put a band on the outside of my cook kit. Inside here, I usually put my fuel canister. I don't have one in here yet. This is my stove, which is a MSR Pocket Rocket 2, not the deluxe version. It's the 2 version. I've got a small, basically almost weightless piece of bamboo chopstick that I marked with half cup, cup and a half, and 2 cup markings on here. And so I use that to measure out water for different meals and so forth. I've got 2 really ultralight pepper and salt shakers in here. Getting bougie on this one. I've got a lighter, obviously, to light my stove. And then I have a lighter load towel. I use this actually to wipe things down, but also to wrap the canister up in it so that in case there's any dirt left on the canister, anything like that, it doesn't get in with my gear. And also, like I said, to wipe out moisture and so forth. So that's pretty much my cook kit. It's a 750 milliliter titanium Tokes pot is what makes up my cook kit. I'll put that away later. Let's go ahead and keep on a digging here. Get rid of some stuff. So now we're going to get into my liner bag. So I use a liner bag inside my pack. Really important. When I was out on the Black Forest Trail, it rained, sleeted, and snow every single day, and it did all 3 almost every single day, mostly raining. And it was like in the 30s during the day when we were hiking to low 40s. And so it was real important to keep my gear dry. And this Nyla bag really did a great job closing it down and keeping the rain out of my gear that can't get wet. So on top here, for when I get into camp, again, there's a method to my madness. Here is my Outdoor Vitals puffy. This is actually synthetic kind of imitation down. It's a fill that acts like down in a lot of ways, and it's hydrostatic, meaning it doesn't like absorb water and so forth. And so basically, I've got this big puffy. It's got a hood on it. I think my puffy probably weighs around 12 to 13 ounces. It is not my normal down puffy that I wear that weighs around 7 to 8 ounces. But again, winter, a little bit heavier gear, something that can take water and rain and still keep me insulated. So that's why I have this. So that's my puffy with a hood for winter. And then down from there, I've got my sleep clothes in here. I loose pack things. I don't like to put things in bags because loose packing, everything seems to fall in there nicer. This is my Polartec, a little bit heavier sleep clothes actually. And so I do have some lighter merino wool that I hike in the winter when it's cold like this in the 30s and low 40s underneath my shirt and my gear and my hiking pants. But this is for in camp, and it's really great stuff. This is made by Kokatat. It's a kayaking company. I use this under my dry suit in the wintertime when I'm whitewater kayaking, and it's awesome, and it keeps you warm. And so I always make sure I want to be warm at night. I don't like to wear my clothes at night when I'm winter hiking, and so these really just take the place of clothes, keeps me super, super duper warm at night. I take a pair of, these are not down booties. These are actually, again, a kind of artificial down from Outdoor Vitals, and I've used these down to 20 degrees, and they keep my feet perfectly warm in those conditions along with my sleep system. Never had a problem with cold feet. I'm not really a cold sleeper, but in the winter, you just never know. You get the chills and so forth. And I just want to like make sure that I'm really comfortable. And it's only 3.5 ounces for these things. So in my mind, again, I'm looking at a 13.5 pound loadout. In my mind, taking these along is perfect. Underneath those, when I'm sleeping, I'll take this pair of sleep socks. This is actually some darn tough, really lightweight sock, what they would call their lightweight sock. And they're only like ankle height. And it's just enough to line the inside of these. I don't really need these to keep me warm because that's what the imitation down booties do. And so I use these for sleeping. And then I also will have an extra pair of hiking socks in here. And I hike in Bridgedale socks, like mid-length socks, lightweight, so they dry really fast. And I did a video about my footwear when I hike in cold, wet conditions. And I do use waterproof socks on the outside of these. And so you can go to that video and check that out. It's actually pretty slick. And I didn't have wet feet at all when I was hiking in 3 days of rain, snow, and sleet. So I have an extra pair of hiking socks to switch out every other day. Wash out socks if I have to, dry out socks, whatever I got to do. Now, below all my clothing starts my sleep system. I think there's one more. Oh yeah, my underwear. I got an extra pair of underwear in here. So again, I can wash one out maybe one day, switch out to the clean pair, and just keep flip-flopping them, whatever I need to do. So here we go into some of the sleep gear here, the sleep system. This is a bag to inflate my sleeping pad. The only time I use a bag, I don't use it usually because it costs you a couple, 2-3 ounces. The only time I use a bag like this is in the wintertime because I don't want to breathe hot air into my X-Lite, because then when it cools off, then it starts to like lose inflation, and then you got to blow it back up again. Then your breath cools off again, and it deflates again a little bit, and then you got to blow it back up. I find with this, I'm basically putting air into the sleeping pad that's the same temperature as the surrounding air or just about, and so it works a lot better in the winter. So I always take a pump sack with me. This is my pillow. It is a Sea to Summit Aeros Premium. It's really big. I like it because in the winter it's got this soft coating on it, and it really does feel like it keeps me warmer rather than like a harder plastic, kind of coating. So it's got this really nice soft coating on it. And so I really like this a lot. To keep it in place in the winter or any time really, I put some hook and loop, some hook on my sleeping pad, and it kind of sticks to this really kind of like this kind of fuzzy fabric that's on here, and it keeps the pillow from sliding around. Now that I mentioned my sleeping pad in the sleep system, this is a woman's X-Lite. It is not a winter sleeping pad, but it is 5.6 R value. It is the women's version is short. I would say you can probably use this down to about 5'6", and that's about where I'm at. And so it works perfectly for me, and has a lot more R value than the normal X-Lite. If you can get away with using the shorter women's version, this one is 20 inches wide, and it's like 5'6", in length. And if you can get away with using the women's version, I highly recommend it because I've been able to use this down to 20 degrees, like I said, and it's kept me really super warm. I've never felt like I've got cold, coming up through the bottom of the pad and, kind of contact with the cold ground underneath me. I've never felt like my system is cooling off because of that. It's really done a great job. Now, I'm not going to pull these out of here completely. Maybe I will. This is my quilt system. This is really what helps me stay super warm down to 20 degrees. And I've tested it for myself. Obviously, it could be different. When I'm sleeping, I don't put on my hiking clothes either. So I have on those Polartec sleep clothes, and that's about it. Or even sometimes my even lighter merino wool stuff that I've been hiking in, sometimes I just sleep in that. So this is the system. I use 2 quilts in the winter, like when I get down to 20 degrees. One of them is a 20 degree down quilt, This one is a economy burrow from Hammock Gear. I love it. I used it in Sierra a lot just by itself, and I've used it again down to 20 degrees with just even a liner inside of it, and I really do like it. But when it gets down to 20 degrees and you're in that weather day after day after day, I feel like I need just a little bit extra bump. And so here's what I do with my sleep system. I got that. I use that on the outside. That's a down quilt. I use it on the outside. What I do on the inside is I use this 50 degree, my summer bag. It's a 50 degree down quilt. This is honestly just an old one that I had laying around that I use in the summertime sometimes. And it's actually, for being 50 degrees, it's actually kind of heavy. I think it weighs almost the same as my down quilt because it's just a lot thicker material and it wasn't made to be like ultra light. But this is actually a mummy bag. And the reason I like this is I'll use this underneath the down quilt. And it's got a hood, and I find that when I can enclose my face and so forth, and then use that 20 degree quilt over this 50 degree, it really works well. Now I will say this, they're both down quilts. The best way to do this, I'm just making use of what I already have because I didn't want to spend money on another quilt or on another bag. The best way to do this would actually be to have some synthetic on the outside, maybe my 20 degree bag on the inside, and then maybe a 50 degree bag or a 50 degree quilt on the outside of that, because what happens during the night is this. With my two down layers, my mummy bag underneath and then my 20 degree quilt on top, what happens is during the night, because of because of your moisture just coming off of your body, it'll go up through the sleep system, and what it does is it hits that outer down bag, the quilt. It gets through, it hits the 20 degree quilt, and then that's the point at which that vapor that's coming off your body will condense and it'll change to water a little bit. And so when I wake up in the morning, sometimes I can feel just a little bit of dampness on the top layer of my 20 degree quilt that I know is not necessarily all from, it's not from the moisture inside the tent. And I know that because sometimes I'll wake up and feel the tent to feel for moisture inside the tent. There is none, but there's a little bit, just a little dampness. I wouldn't even call it dampness, just a little bit of a moisture feel to the top of my 20 degree bag in the winter, like down around 20 degrees. And that's because that water vapor that comes off your body, it's going up through my mummy bag that's down. And then finally it gets cold enough on the outside of the 20 degree bag to condense back into moisture water again. And so probably if I was to do this the right way, I would put some type of like down bag inside, and then a outer, maybe 50, maybe a 20 degree, maybe my 20 degree down bag inside, and then maybe a 50 degree outer quilt that could handle some of that moisture, because it doesn't, obviously if it's a synthetic quilt, on the outside, if it handles some of that moisture a little better, you won't lose your insulation factor if you use like some kind of synthetic. So again, hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but not good to use two down and combine. Probably better to use down underneath and a synthetic on top, and I think you would be better off. So, but I'm using what I have, and that's really what I do. And if I was out there for a week or 2 weeks, I would definitely invest in a outer shell for my 20 degree, like an outer quilt, like a 50 degree that would be synthetic. I would definitely do that, but I'm only spending a couple days. I felt like there's not so much moisture that I can't get it dry the next day before I go to bed, and so I haven't really worried about it too much. But it's just something to think about, And that is it. That is all my gear. That's basically a gear for down to 20 degrees. It's worked really well. I've tested this gear at those temperatures for me personally, and it's worked. It's kept me warm, it's kept me dry, it's kept me comfortable and hiking happy. That's the most important thing, backpacking happy. So backpackers, stop watching YouTube videos and get out there, do some backpacking, do some hiking. Unless they're my videos, then definitely watch them all from start to finish.